yeah.
And those lights.
Now, thank God for this.
Yeah, ask questions live on the show. I think that'd be fun. We could say we have a live audience today. So if you want, I'm totally for it. I know we're in the beer. Just raise your hand if you want to ask a question. Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sister Show, down to earth discussions on metaphysics, paranormal, and spiritual topics.
And the Sedona Soul Sisters are myself, Rosalind Reynolds, my business partner, Ivory Lanu, and our sweet mate, Terry Ann Russell. And we have offices in Sedona where we hang out. We're here a lot.
All the time.
It's our family away from family
Yes,
here.
where we see clients from all over the world. So it's a very interesting place to be.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that soon. So today's topic is distance energy healing. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat box and we'll answer them. Or on our Facebook page, we'll always check there and get back to you.
For those of you who are here live right now, as I said, just raise your hand and we'll stop and you can ask your question. So we've been bringing this up and there's a reason for that because people keep saying, oh no, can I come in? And we're like, well, you don't have to be in to do that. And trying to explain that is some people have a lot of resistance to that idea that they don't need to be there in person. And actually, that's not just true for distance healing. I think it's for anything. The only thing I have to do in person is medical qigong energy healing because it's hands-on. But everything else, I think, is not only doable but sometimes better done at a distance. So either of you want to talk about that? I know that you do a lot of distance healing, Terry Ann.
I do, and I think a lot of times you can get caught up in your brain. I know the first time that I did it, I was telling Roz, I was totally in my ego and could not understand how this was going to work. I was psyching myself up. And my client was in India. So I was really psyching myself up because it's not like, just California. It was all the way across the world. And we did it, and she was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And she could feel it, and I could feel it. And so energy healing does not know any distance or time. Setting that intention when you go into a session that you're going to be working on somebody and bringing in the highest levels of multidimensional light. It just flows so easily and you don't have to be there. And I had the same thing too. People always like, I want to come and see you. And I'm like, you don't have to. We could do it today.
And sometimes they're in a lot of pain or they're very
Mhm,
concerned, like they've had a cancer diagnosis and or a relapse of another illness and they're concerned, but they want to wait till they can see you in person. And that's what concerns me is like, why are we waiting?
Right.
We could do this right now.
Mhm.
Do you think that it matters if the person that you're healing believes in what you're doing?
I used to think that they had to, but as the years have gone by, I've had so many experiences where they I keep, as you know, I keep a list of people. People call me that I know, different parts of the country, different practitioners. Sometimes just clients call me up and say, can you pray and can you work on so and so? They were just diagnosed with this, or, they are not feeling well, they can't figure out what's wrong. And I used to think that they had to believe.
Mm.
But as the years have gone by, I've come to think that it's not, I know it's not really me that's doing the healing. I am praying before I, ask my angels, I ask Jesus to stand with me, to help me send the light, etc. And I've come to believe that it's just the frequency of the energy that you're actually moving and shifting that really does change their energy.
For me, it's not so much that they have to believe that it works, but I think they have to be receptive to having it done.
Open.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't feel comfortable. And I've had people ask, will you work on my mother? Is your mother open to this? No, she doesn't. well, can you
Well, yeah.
ask her if she'd like it? But as far as like whether believing it, I haven't tested it so much with distance healing, but with hands-on healing, didn't matter. As a matter of fact, I think that hands-on healing of any kind that works for the person who's resistant or doesn't believe it is a game changer, and can also be what sets people onto a spiritual journey of their
Hmm.
own
Yeah, I
discovery.
agree.
And a lot of times their higher self will agree, even if they don't agree. I always go to the higher self because they might be like, no, I'm not
This is
doing
in their
it.
best and highest good.
Right. Oh my God, no way. And then I always go to the higher self. And usually the higher self will agree.
So I kind of think of that as being receiving permission.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And for people who don't feel comfortable with it, a lot of times they will still say, well, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Hmm.
And so I think it's not necessarily their core belief as much as their willingness to just allow the energy to flow.
When I was working for a family member of a boyfriend I had, and she had cancer, and they'd given her a certain amount of time to live, and she came to stay with us for 2 weeks to get energy healing with me. And I taught her son how to help me with that, to amplify it. And so when she came, she had these big red rings around her eyes. Her eyes were kind of sunken with like dark circles underneath. She was very pale, almost no energy, no sparkle to her eyes. And we worked on her an hour twice a day for this cancer. And by the time she left, she had sparkle. The rings were gone. Um, she was sleeping, she was eating, and she went home, and her daughter was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this." And she had an X-ray, or an MRI rather. The tumor was gone, and the doctor refused to believe that it had anything to do with it. And I want to point out, this woman is not somebody who believed in any of this, but she was at a point where she was willing to try anything, and she
Yes.
trusted me. And so I think just being at that point,
Hmm.
I'll try it because I have nothing to lose here, is sometimes what brings people to this.
Yes.
I agree.
Hmm.
And I think when we are shifting, when we're moving energy within people and around their frequency of their auric field, and those things realign, um, blockages and dis-ease, events that are going on, actually move into different frequencies, different positions, and people do feel that. They'll definitely say, "Oh my gosh, I can really feel that."
Yeah.
What do you feel when you're doing distance healing? Like how what's your process?
So I actually feel, because I'm an empath, so I feel a lot in my body. I feel where the blockages are. A lot of it is intuitively guided. Um, so I'm usually shown where to go and what to do. So the process is with bringing in that beautiful light. I always say that spirit works through me. I'm just a conduit, and I'm not doing the healing. It's just working through me. And a lot of times they may come in for one thing and say, "Oh, my head hurts," but I may be down working on their stomach more than their head. It really just depends on the person. I've never had somebody say to me, "Oh, that didn't work," because even if they're closed, sometimes they still feel something.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, "Were you at my head all day?" And I was like, "No, I was at your feet." you know, I felt something up here. So energy flows where it needs to go. I always say.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I totally agree.
Hmm.
What about you, Roz?
Um, I don't know. Um, I've had a lot of different situations, so I really feel like what you just said is absolutely, the truth. I'm not necessarily focusing on removing, curing. I'm not using any of those terminologies. I'm more just like, just let the energy flow whatever way it needs to flow. And I see it. I mean, I see it in my mind. I see it, and sometimes I actually can envision it. And there's definitely an experience that occurs there that they have.
Mine's kind of like yours, being an empath. Like I'm gonna feel things in my body. I try to ask them like, what's the issue you want me to work on? And I see myself like going into the body and around, and I'm at that organ, and very often end up working on tumors, and I just will see it like I
Mm.
see it shrinking, 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 and I keep going till I see it just kind of go poof, and it just kind of goes to dust and is gone. But I also do that as well, where they'll be like, I don't know, I just don't feel right, and then I kind of do that head
Mm-hmm.
to toe scan
Mm-hmm.
and tune in that way intuitively, the way you're talking about. So um, I don't know. I've never had anybody say the
Yeah.
healing doesn't work either. But oh wait, I okay, there are all those Southern Baptists. My parents keep taking me to their homes when I visit, who are terrified for me to do healing because they think it's like voodoo or something.
Mhm.
And they do calm down about halfway through it, but none of them have come back and said that really helped. I think they're so freaked out.
How's that possible? I have a little teddy bear that I work when I do distance healing.
Oh, I love
And
that.
he gets the most amazing energy healing, because everything's just flowing through him. It just gives me a visual guide to use
That's a great
too.
idea.
Yeah, so I really like that.
Maybe that's what Winston, my little lovable teddy bear, will become for me.
Hmm.
Put him to good use. He's well loved.
And animals too. It works the same on animals when I do
Hmm.
Reiki on my dog. They have different chakra points and everything, but when you immediately start to do Reiki or any type of energy healing on an animal, he'll lay down, he calms
Mm-hmm.
down.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so if he's a little stressed and agitated, I just send him some Reiki and I don't have to be touching him with him. Same thing, it works the same way on animals.
Is there anything you can't work on at a distance?
I don't think so. Do you?
I don't think so because it's energy.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, it's not, you're not required to be physically present to move energy
It's just
in a
correcting
different
an
place.
imbalance in frequency.
Yeah.
We're right back again to that topic. Everything
Mm-hmm.
is frequency,
Yes.
everything is
So,
energy.
well, I think one interesting thing that I find is I'm not as empathic. I think I'm not as empathic as either of you. And I probably might have been when I was younger, but I think as the years have gone by, I've kind of become more able to detach and be very objective. And that's when do my, I do feel things within people's bodies. Um, I mean, a lot of times, even when I'm doing a reading, I'll say, oh, I feel you have this pain right here, and I feel it, and this is what it feels like. And, let me work on that a little bit while we're here and just see if we can alleviate that. But in a distance sense, I think the point you made right at the beginning was really good. Like being because you're not seeing, you're not right there. I find that to be maybe even more effective
Mm-hmm.
in some ways for me.
So, why do you think that is? Because that's one thing I think we should bring up. Like, why is it more effective to be at a distance? I have my own thoughts on that.
I think in my case, it is that connection that I feel with the frequencies, and yet I'm not in the presence of. So I don't really consider myself to be all that empathic, but I can be incredibly detached and objective of things. And for me, that's a tool.
There's times when that's absolutely necessary.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
can't keep your balance if you can't find that
Yeah.
detachment at times.
yeah. I just find it to be, for me, very effective. And one thing that happens when I'm working one on one with a person in my office and I'm bringing the energy down through, it's coming in like a very hot white light that's coming in through the top of my head. And I can become so overheated doing that, which is interesting because I still get warm and I still feel hot when I'm doing distance work, but not at the same level. So that can be a distraction sometimes. I'm,
Mm-hmm.
literally drenched.
I don't want people to get the wrong idea because I just want to put it out there. I love it when people come see me in person. I'm a people person and it helps, especially for your first visit. It is so nice when you can meet in person. But when somebody's not there, I think what it allows for me as an empath is to be able to step back
Yeah.
noisily, to be open to do my work and yet protect my energy field. And so I don't have to try to protect my solar plexus at the same time that I'm trying to intuit what's going on with a person and work on them, whether it's a reading or whether it's angelic communications or a healing. Um, it just helps me. It's less interference, I guess, less interference. So better focus for me.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that? Like why it's easier to do it?
No.
Does it just shock you?
It still shocks me sometimes. Things will happen, and we all talk about it all the time. Like it, it just shows up, and you're like, oh my gosh! Like people will say, I was just drawn to you. I kept coming back to your picture. Your picture kept
Mhm.
showing up, and I don't know why it is, but I'm
Yeah.
drawn to you.
Those angels,
And
they're
so
relentless.
they are.
That's a frequency thing.
That too,
Mhm.
yes.
So I
Absolutely.
think it
It's
is still
really
shocking to me
intense.
sometimes.
Has there ever been anything that you couldn't take care of with energy healing?
I don't think so.
There
Every
has
session
been
I've
when
had.
people
When
had made
people
up their mind to go,
to go. Yes.
nothing. I mean, I could prolong it a little bit, but nothing was going to give them a lot of time or get rid of the illness.
Yeah. When they made up their mind that they're done.
I think it's okay to respect that.
I
I'm a
do
big
respect
believer in
that.
we don't get a choice in, well, like we do, but we don't have a choice in a lot of things in life. But I think we have the right to decide what we want to do as far as if we're done fighting an illness, if you have a terminal diagnosis or something. And so I don't push that
And then
on people.
transitioning too, that's another whole aspect of energy healing. You're not
Hmm.
trying to heal them then. You're trying to help them just transition.
Ease them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What they call palliative care, just comfort.
Mhm.
It's part of that, just giving them comfort and ease.
Yeah.
I think about a lot. It would be good for us to go into like a hospice unit and that maybe once a month and go in and
Yeah, I've
just.
been more drawn to them.
I have too.
Mhm.
I was thinking about taking my harp in, and but we could go in and do healing, and
Mm-hmm.
we could go in and just talk to them about care because there's so much to healing beyond doing energy work. There's healing is a huge subject and it happens in many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think also one thing that um, when you're actually working on these points, in the physical, and those things are in the spiritual side of us too, because we're a mind, body, spirit being. And one thing is I've noticed over the years is when working with people who have come to that point where they just don't want to be here anymore. um, they want to move on. And then it becomes more a situation of putting them in what I think of as a state of um, suspension, where they're not experiencing so much fear, so much pain, so much of that. They're just kind of able to be neutral, what I think of as a neutral field, where they realize that they're crossing, but they're not um, experiencing. Most people, I think, have a fear
Yeah. So more of like an
of the
outer body.
unknown. Yeah, the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, there have been times when I talk to people who realized that they were only going to be around for another few months or something, and that's a really good conversation to have. Like you're not you're not leaving here alone.
Mm-hmm.
You came in with angels. You're leaving with them. They're still with you. Your guidance will be around you. A lot of them are going in and out of their body before they actually transition. So, you hear these stories of people talking to people that have been gone for decades. Well, they're not just talking, to the wall. Those spirits are present. The other people who are with their loved one can't necessarily see them, but they're there. So they're waiting to embrace that soul and take it across.
Brings
So,
up another subject, something Roz and I have been asked to do a number of times, which is to help somebody who is terminal and really wants to cross but is having trouble letting go,
mm,
to help them cross from a distance, which is another form of distance healing. And that's something that we do. We have done that. But it usually takes about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks sometimes, to tune into that and just ease them through that process. So that's just a different form. And it works, and they go peacefully, and the family feels better.
they're able to let go of whatever it is that they feel is holding them here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, people feel they haven't completed something. They still feel like I have a responsibility. I need to be taking care of this or whatever they are creating around themselves, to be able to work with them and allow them to release that so that they can cross in a peaceful energy and feel love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a situation where you're, crossing out of this life, but you are um, crossing into a different frequency of love and being surrounded with light. So,
Life
very powerful.
continues, even though we're in spirit form.
Yeah.
Life continues, and spirit talks about that a lot. So that is another thing with the distance healing that's real powerful. Anything else you can think of that you want to add to that?
I think it would be kind of a good thought process for people to realize that we're not the only ones who do this. You can do this too. You can be sitting with your loved one and, talking to them, their higher consciousness, and saying, you don't need to try and stay. It's, your choice. If it's your time, you need to relax, release, and cross over. And I distinctly remember sitting with my mother before she died, and she was in a coma, but I know she could hear me. And boy, that was a thing in her life. She never missed a thing. So she, bat laughs. She clearly heard me when I said, you've done everything you need to do here. You did a great job. You can go now. You don't have to wait. You can go. And her entire face changed just like that. All the stress, even though she was in a coma, she was kind of a high anxiety person at times, and I could just feel her hanging on, trying to hang on. Like, oh, did I do this? Did I do that? That was kind of her style. And just saying to her, you can go. You can go now.
And you don't have to be with your
And you don't
loved
have to
one.
be them.
And
Yeah.
I think for
Be there.
healing too, I firmly believe that every person on this planet has the ability to do energy healing, which is why I love telling people start with Reiki, learn Reiki, get some basic energy healing, and then decide from there kind of where you want to go. But imagine what this world would be like if everybody knew at least one form of energy healing, and we took it as a matter of fact that's a normal part of our medical treatment is to first try these natural things,
Yeah.
energy healing, and there's no side effects. We were just talking yesterday about all the medications and how Roz was talking about a doctor who was saying that he could look at a person's figure and tell where fat deposits were, what medications that they've been taking. And it's part of that interacting. You get enough medications in there, pretty soon it's just messing with your body. So
Yeah.
it's really behooves all of us to embrace energy healing. I'm going to say this. They probably think this woman and her predictions. I keep getting shown these things. I'm shown things, and a long time ago, I was also shown and told we would only have energy healing and essential oils and herbal medicine, and that is it, and not very distant future. And that was in the 80s that I heard that. So it is kind of taking a surge forward, and people are waking up to that and really getting interested in it. I don't know what's going to happen. Please don't ask me. If I knew more, I'd tell you right now. People always afterwards are like, "When did you hear it? What did you hear?"
How did that happen?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit more about how it came about, but they didn't tell me when it was going to happen or why, how it's going to happen. They just very firmly said it's very important, and that's one of the reasons I started with energy healing. I never heard of energy healing. I never heard of qigong, and I'm like, there's a medical qigong. I'm going to go take that because they said energy healing.
Well, the interesting thing too that people need to realize is, I mean, I figured out I could do readings, when I was really young. I
Mhm.
figured out I could do, all kinds of things. And I had a woman tell me who was a very well known psychic who asked me to come in for a reading because she wanted to talk to me when I was young. And she just said, You have no idea how much power you have. You have no clue, and so you're not using it right. You got to really, you got to figure out how to manage this thing. And I never even realized the ability I had to do distance work until probably the last 20 years.
And I think most of us don't.
Yeah.
We learn things when we're little. We just know things about people, and we're like,
I don't know
again,
how I
thinking
know
we're
that.
crazy. I don't know how I know that. And they look at you like you are crazy because now you know something about them.
Or everybody else was there and you got something and they're like, where I was there, I didn't know. Where did you get that?
So that's why I think it's important for people who are watching and listening. Don't assume that you can't do this.
Oh
Don't.
no, I had no experience at all.
Yeah. Don't assume, like, both Terry Ann and Ivory are trained in certain types of healing. I mean, I literally just bumbled into it.
Sometimes that's
like,
what it takes.
Oh, I didn't know I
Look
could
what
do
I
that.
can do. I have had a
So,
distance healing from Roz. It wasn't a big distance. She was about 25 minutes away, but I was at my house here in Sedona, and I don't remember exactly what was going on, but maybe it was the bronchitis, one of those
yeah,
bouts.
you were pretty sick.
I
I
was
remember.
really sick and I missed a lot of days and I couldn't get my feet under me. And she's like, "Do you have a crystal at the house?" Yes. We're on the phone. She goes, "Get the crystal, hold it in your hand and put it," whoops, there goes those cards, "and put it over your heart area." And I did, and I held it, and then I just closed my eyes. I was laying on my back on the sofa, and Roz was doing her thing. And at one point I just said, "Roz, is this crystal supposed to get hot?" And she just started laughing. Yes,
Of course.
yes, it is. And it just got hot to the point where it was uncomfortable holding it. It was so hot. And it was that I could feel like the energy vibrating in that crystal. And it was pretty amazing. And I did start to get better. I kind of got over the hump of that because I'd been so rough. So
Yeah.
it was nice to be able to experience it. I've had some healing with Terry Ann, a session with Terry Ann. It was great,
Yeah.
but not distance healing.
No,
Yet.
and I did Roz's arm.
Yeah,
and my,
that's
my
right.
hands were like shooting sparks.
Yeah,
out. I
that
was
was
like,
that was
Is
wild.
that
You
a
see
normal
that?
thing to happen?
I don't know.
That was pretty
I was like,
wild.
That's a new one.
So that brings up, I wasn't thinking about the crystals, but that brings up another thing to think about is crystals have a piezo electric field. I mean, this is science. So this was discovered by the Curies in the 1880s. So this is why we have crystals in watches. We have silicon chips in computers because those are crystals basically that hold and store information and move information. Anytime they're using a crystal with a battery, they're stimulating. So there's nothing that prevents us. It ain't rocket science. I mean, we can handle these are tools of healing. They're tools of um, any and every type of thing you can imagine with your mind. A crystal can help you do, and I same thing. I mean, I always loved rocks and crystals and gems and stuff when I was young, but I never realized when it hit me, it was just so stunning a revelation to me of like, wow, you know, those things are powerful. So when you're with your intention of goodness and your intention of healing for people, don't hesitate to use a tool of quartz or amethyst or other healing um, modalities. I became very, very sick in 2008, and I had a partner here, and she and I had an office for a while. And she had what was called, I think it was called a biomat, and it was actually a mat with infrared um, electrical lighting inside, and it was full of amethyst crystals. And I had 2 or 3 bouts of pneumonia. I had bronchitis. I couldn't kick it off. She had me lay on this mat, and we never even turned it on. And the minute I laid on it, I just became so hot. I was just sweating profusely, became so hot. And literally, I'm pretty convinced I just burned whatever that bugs were out. And that heat of laying on that thing made me, you know, so much better. So these are powerful tools, and there's no rule that says you can't use those. And there's a lot of information of how to vibrate them and do that. So
Speaking of roasting, I think Carrie Ann's roasting sitting right here.
yeah, whenever the three of us sit together, it gets steamy.
It does.
And that's
It's a
without
lot of
setting
energy.
the intention to do
Yeah.
that.
We're not intending that.
Maybe we should do a video where we do that and then we put our hands and we just send the intention out to anybody watching the video, healing for them.
Yep. So where are we time wise? Did anyone?
No, no questions.
Okay.
You can wrap it up anytime.
Alrighty then. So, for those of you who may have joined us for the first time today, or if you've been watching us for a while, all of this is about trying to help you get it, open your mind to the fact that you have amazing abilities and you can use them to help others. So, we'd like to thank you for watching today, and we'd like to remind you that if you have any questions about the services the three of us do, any other information, there's information in our blogs. You can go on our website, sedonasoulsisters.com, and check it out.
And starting next week, we're changing to a different format. So it won't be a live show. We've gotten a lot of feedback that it's hard for them to tune in at this hour, and it's hard for us to do it after hours. So we're going to be doing some audio visual videos on YouTube that you can download. You can just watch it anytime on YouTube, and it'll be on a variety of subjects, just like we cover here on the talk show. But we won't be doing the live show starting next week. So we'll pick a day and we'll just release a new video once a week for you on a variety of topics that you can watch anytime. And in the meantime, we just hope you have a beautiful week.
Enjoy.
Where's the fan? If it wasn't so noisy, we could set up a fan around here, but it would really Angels came in.
Roz?
It's
No.
me.
Is that
Angels.
Well, you know she